Welcome to English Reading by Hidemi Woods. I'll read episodes from my books and talk about them. I hope you enjoy the show with me. Hi, I'm your host, Hidemi Woods. I'll read an episode from my book titled An Old Tree in Kyoto. Today's episode is called A Girl Again. It's about what I felt about my younger sister. A Girl Again. I had a dream about my sister last night. In each and every dream about her, she takes my parents away from me. She's 4 years younger than I am, and I still remember the time when she was born. Although everybody told me that I must have been very happy to become a big sister, I felt gloomy more and more as my mother's due date was drawing near. I strongly wished my sister would never be born because I knew grown-ups' attention would leave me. And I was right. She was born to be my parents' favorite. My mother especially stood by her all the time, both physically and mentally. I was sent away to my grandparents' room to sleep with them. My mother's arms and lap were always occupied by my sister, and I was constantly driven away to my father. Only consolation for me was my grandfather's attitude. Because Japan was excessively male-dominated, it still is, in my opinion. He was bitterly disappointed that his newly born grandchild was a girl again. He kept complaining about it to his neighbor friends, saying, "It's no good. A girl again, no good." For that matter, he had 6 grandchildren in all, and none of them was a boy. I regard it as a curse. My sister still gets along well with my parents as their favorite, lives with them in my hometown, and they brag about whatever she does while they criticize for whatever I do. To this day, they remain taken away from me by my sister. It can be a good thing for me, though. That was today's episode. In the last part of the episode, I wrote being about my parents who were taken away from me by my sister, and it can be a good thing for me. I wrote it because because watching my sister growing up and living her own life, I I feel my sister is so unhappy because of my parents. She took away my parents' parent affection, but because of that, she had to live as their favorite, so she was always obedient to them, especially to my mother, and she did everything according to exactly what my mother told her to do. And that rewarded her affection, but it seemed to me she always struggled between what she was told to do by my mother and what she really wanted to do. Those things were slightly different for her, I think. So but she chose to do what my mother told her to do. And after she grew up and became an adult, she didn't do anything what she really wanted to do. And she is so unhappy now. On the contrary, I wasn't my parents' favorite, so I just kept doing what I wanted to do by ignoring what my mother told me to do. So in a way, I felt always satisfied what I was doing because I just ignored. I was able to ignore my mother. So I thought it could be a good thing for me that my sister took away my parents from me. Basically, Japan is such a male-dominated country. If you lived here, you would be surprised how male-dominated Japan can be. These days, things have been getting better because of young people. Japanese young people have behaved so differently from the old generation. So they have gotten this country better a bit by bit. But when I was a child, Japan was horribly male-dominated, especially the area where I grew up. I grew up in Kyoto. Kyoto was the old city in Japan. Arguably the oldest city in Japan. And all the customs remained everywhere. So I was so indignant, furious about male dominance as a child every day. So if the family didn't have a boy as a successor, it could be the biggest problem, the biggest threat to continue the family. And when the family had no boy, if a family had only girls, the firstborn girl had to marry a man and take him in to the family as an heir. So when I was growing up in Kyoto, it was the time of such custom. With that kind of custom remained. So after I was born, my family, especially my grandfather, strongly wished the next grandchild would be a boy to sustain the family lineage. But it was a girl again. And my grandfather was complaining about it all the time. But I was angry about so many male-dominated customs and around me. It's not just customs, but people's habits, everyday routines. Everything was based upon male dominance. For instance, the small examples, but when I was an elementary school student, class presidents were selected and selected by students, and every class had two class presidents. One was boy and the other was a girl. But the boy should preside every meeting, and the girl shouldn't, or the girl president wasn't allowed to preside. She would be only a secretary for him, and the girl's task at the meeting was writing the meeting's agendas on the blackboard. That was it. And in another example, when I was graduated from the elementary school, on the graduation ceremony, an honorable student made a speech in front of the whole school. And the honorable student was selected by teachers. And that year, when I was graduated, I was the smartest girl at school. So I should be the honorable student. But unfortunately for them, I was a girl. So they selected the second smartest student, who was a boy, and he became the honorable student at the elementary school, and she made the speech. Not me. But it was so unfair, even to those teachers. It was apparently unfair. So, out of sympathy, the teachers gave me the task to read the list of the graduation gifts from the graduates' parents' union to the school. I read the list of those gifts in front of the whole school. I can say it was quite stupid. But that was pretty much all what they could do for me. And they didn't say out loud, but those teachers implied that I was unlucky because I was born as a girl. If I were a boy, you would make the speech. But so sad you were a girl, and so read the list at least. I remember at the rehearsal of the graduation ceremony, the teachers, when I was took on the stage to read that list of the guests, I took on the stage and approached to the center of the stage in front of the microphone. And then the teachers told me that my what do you call it? The step width, my the way of my walking was weird. So fix it. And I asked them what was wrong with my walking. And they said, your one step is too wide for a girl. So I was striding like a boy. So you shouldn't, I was told not to stride like a boy. Walk much quieter and slowlier, they said, because I was a girl. And those were my childhood memories. But even after I grew up, still I had bad experiences so many times in living in Japan. It was still many years back. So now things are different now, I think, but then a few decades ago, Japan was still so male-dominated. And when I was so young, when some parties or ceremonies were held, women had to pour sake or beer to men's cups. It was women's work, women's task to pour drinks to men's cups. Or I once when I went to one real estate agency with my partner to rent an apartment. The real estate agent told me that I couldn't sign the contract, and my partner's name was acceptable, but not mine. So, although I was the one who were going to pay the rent, I couldn't rent an apartment by my name because I am a woman. So the agent told me to sign the contract by my partner's name, not mine. Otherwise, they said they couldn't allow us to rent the apartment. And I couldn't comply that stupid rule. So I turned down that apartment. I didn't rent it eventually. But that was the standard in Japan back then. But women around me seemed happy about it. It was the big mystery for me. Back then, they were willing to comply those customs. They were willing to pour beer for men. They were willing to walk behind men. I simply defied it, and my usual habit was when I passed a man on the narrow street or road, usually a woman would take a side for a man to go through. A woman would wait for a man to pass on the edge of the street. Or a woman would would change the path they were walking so that a man would walk on straight. But my policy was never change the walking path of mine for a man. So I would walk straight toward the man, not go aside, not going aside for a man. And it was on the point of bumping into each other. The man would flinch and go aside for me. And it was a win for me, because I let the man go aside. I didn't stop. I didn't go aside for a man. In those cases, a man would give me a strange look, as if I was a crazy woman, because I was just walking to the man. And a man, usually back then, usually expected for a woman to go aside. So if a man passed each other with me on a narrow street, he would almost run into me or bumped into. We bumped into each other because I didn't go aside. Things were better now because of young people, and but still Japan still has male dominance everywhere. I really hate it. Japan has an emperor, and an emperor has to be male. And that was the basic thing, the basic problem in Japan. And from that, there are numerous, countless problems of male dominance in Japan that still exist. Those still exist, like the payment difference between genders. It was so big. Women are paid so less than men, and so little, so few executive executives in the corporate organization. Those were high-rank officers are mainly men in Japan. Politicians are too. That topic just brought me an interest thing just now. A few years ago, I saw the interview of the CEO of a big Japanese mobile company, and that CEO is a man, of course, in Japan, and he was asked by an interviewer that why he aimed at being the top why he aimed his company to be the top of the industry, mobile industry. Why he wanted to expand his company globally and tried to make it number one, the top of the world. And that CEO answered that question. His answer was, that was because I am a man. I am male. Because I am male, I want to be on the top. His reason was his gender. So, since I heard that interview, happened to hear that interview, I have been determined not to sign up that company. I have never signed up that mobile company, even though it rolled out so attractive promotions or discounts. Anything was everything was not everything hasn't appealed to me, only because I remember that CEO's answer. And I can tell you, I will never sign up that mobile company because that CEO remains as a CEO, and his main purpose of success is because of his gender, because he is a man, he said himself. So I will not pay a dime for that company, such a company. Looking back, I have been always furious and indignant about male dominance. As far as I can remember, I've been always complaining about it, about Japanese male dominance. But I realize, although I was complaining about it, I may take advantage of it. I mean, come to think of it, when I decided to become a musician, I needed to leave home and move to Tokyo alone. But as a successor of the family, I didn't have such liberty in the family. So naturally, my parents opposed it. She didn't allow me to go to Tokyo. But my grandfather let me go. My grandfather allowed me to be a musician by leaving home. But if I were a boy, I don't think my grandfather would allow me to leave home. I would be confined in the family house to succeed the family, instead of leaving home to become a musician. So, in a sense, I may have taken advantage of being a woman in a male-dominated society of Japan. Well, that was all for today. I'm Hidemi Woods. Thanks for listening, really. Until next time, take care and be well.
Audiobook, The Family in Kyoto, One Japanese Girl Got Freedom by Hidemi Woods on sale at online stores or apps. Apple Books, Google Play, Audible, 43 available distributors in total.